Hi everybody, Creative Katie here and welcome to my channel. Today we have an art journal tutorial. It's a fun page. Stay tuned. So I'm working in my Canson Mixed Media 7x10 art journal, and at the beginning I'm in the greens and the tones. I'm moving around the color wheel, and so today I'm going into the purples and blue zone. And this is something I do when I want to challenge myself. I just pick different colors. I go around the color wheel and I let that dictate where I'm going to start. Now I'm taping off the edge here so that the gunk that I put on, the paint, the modeling paste, whatever, doesn't get into the coils, and that gives you a nice clean edge. So I want to start this page off by collaging some papers. So I'm looking for color inspiration in my file folder of gel prints and collage sheets, and I'm pulling out different shades of purple. I'm looking at the shapes. Now, using collage papers is a great idea because it helps start your color story. It also starts maybe the shapes that you're going to use and the theme of the page. So it gives you a jumping off point. And that happens whether you end up seeing it in the end or whether you don't. So I'm just ripping this into different shapes. If you rip up, you get a clean edge, or you get that whiter edge, which I like. If you rip down, you don't get that edge. So I'm just layering these colors and playing with paper. This is just starting me into the creative mode. So there is no magic in where I'm placing them. I don't like the straight edges, so for the most part I get rid of that and I put it down. I'm just combination, overlapping the collage sheets as well as starting your color story and your pattern story and giving you direction of which to follow. It also will add texture to the page, which even if you cover it completely up with other colors, you're still going to have. So I'm using matte medium. This is not the gel medium that I usually use. It's the liquid form. I have this in my stash. I bought it. I tried it. I didn't like it, and I'm determined I'm going to use it up, and in doing so, give it a good try. And actually, I'm finding I'm liking it better. I'm not sure why I pushed it back to the back of my cupboard. So as you can see, some of these are not going down in the way that I originally placed them. Again, it's not cut and dried. I like at least 3 of each color. Odds seem to work best. And I want to create some interesting shapes between areas that have collage papers on them and areas that don't. When I pick collage papers, I also try to pick papers or the gel prints that have been done on different types of papers. So some are thicker and some are thinner, and that adds interest to your background as well. Because I knew I was going to collage this page, I didn't do a coat of gesso on this page because it's pretty much going to get covered with gel medium and protected to a certain degree, and at some times I come back and I add gesso on top. So I really like the look of these as they were, and I kind of wish that when I colorize the rest of the page, I didn't hide so much of this. I also had some difficulty with the camera. I was cutting off. I was having all sorts of difficulties, or maybe I wasn't turning it on. I don't know. So I lost some of the process. So then I grabbed the light blue permanent and the dioxazine purple that are in those colors. After I use this tiny dot stencil and put some modeling paste through it. Now I chose the little circles because the gel print that I had put down had bigger circles, so that kind of set the tone. I also did some stamping with this foam stamp. And I colorized. So you can see how we've skipped forward. But what I did is I thinned out some light blue permanent and dioxazine purple and just applied it to the spaces. I was regretting that I had put that black on there, but in the end it pointed me in the direction. So these are the stencils, the 28 stencils that you get for a very inexpensive price. They're Mandela stencils, all of them, but they have lovely motifs that work so well on backgrounds. And I love the 5x5 size of them. So I'll put a link to them in the description box below. So this got a whole lot darker than what I had initially anticipated. And I'm kind of thinking, oh, I kind of really didn't do well when I stamped with that honeycomb stamp. So you can see all those Mandela stencils that are there. And I want more pattern than anything specific, so I'm not using the center part, the flower part. In my mind, I was going for an underwater scene, and that's not what's appearing in front of me. So I take inspiration from what's happening and I follow that. Here I'm adding white because I'm blocking off some of that dark. So if you put a color and you don't particularly like it, you can, with further layers of stenciling and lighter colors, push that back so it doesn't take over the page. So right now we have a very different looking page than what we had before. And I believe I'm using Prussian blue here. I want to get some movement going on the page, so I'm picking these patterns that are swirly. I absolutely love, love, love the background. And there we got some clouds going in. I'm just adding a little bit more, looking at it. Sometimes I take pictures just to see, am I happy with it? Do I want to bring out more colors? But at this point, I've decided that it doesn't look particularly underwater. So the focal image that I was going to put isn't going to work as well as I had planned. Trying to lighten it up, I'm splattering with white, and when I did that, it really didn't seem too terribly underwater. So I set it aside, and several days go by. And when I look at it, I love the background, but instead of underwater, it's reading to me Arctic. So I decide to go with a snowy, wintry scene, and I get some penguins from my Silhouette Cameo. I cut it out of cardstock, and I have a mama penguin and 2 baby penguins, and I decide that, you know what, I'm just going to go with that. So I grab some gel prints, and again, the gel prints that I have, I'm picking ones with less pattern. They're mostly plaid, and they're the same colors that I see in the background. So that very beginning collage papers that you can't see a whole lot of at this point in time have continued to guide my process. Now, I was going to make them white and just put the bellies were colored. I thought that would stand out more, but I thought, what if I did one black? So I cut out another one, and I decided to do a trial. So here I'm sponge painting the penguin black, the body of the penguin. and I'm putting on the gel print on there, and it is popping out. And the black, remember that black that I thought was such a mistake? It's peeking through and it's reading, it's working really well with what I'm doing here. So I grabbed the other two penguins and I'm painting them black. I'm getting the edges as well because I don't want those to show up white. Now, if you don't have a silhouette cameo, find a penguin clip art, cut it out. It's a very easy shape, not too detailed, and you can make your own. So I decide these penguins need a snowdrift to stand on, and that will make some stand up higher and lower and give some interest to my page. So I mark where I want the snow hill to go with my Stabilo All pencil, the white one. And then I'm just adding white paint. I do come in afterwards off camera and I sponge paint more white because when it dried, it wasn't as opaque and pure white as I wanted it to be. And then I'm putting the penguins, walking on them. They're touching a little bit, overlapping a little bit. And then I want them to stand up a little bit more from the background. So I'm putting the template on and just very, very lightly sponge painting, just kind of a white halo. And all I want this to do is make the penguin stand out a little bit more against this very busy background. And you're right, I could use the floating acrylic technique, but I know that many people struggle with that. And here is a simple, easy alternative to that, which is going to give you a similar effect. Now I'm showing you there that you do not have much paint. This sponge is almost dry. I don't want it to look like a solid line around the penguin. More just a halo, blustery snow. So I'm gluing this down with gel medium. This one is from the Crafter's Workshop. And I'm applying it rather thickly because one, there's texture on the page, and two, the paper is a little bit thicker. So I'm having to push it down a little bit. And while it's still wet, I'm putting on his plaid belly. And I'm just smiling to myself because I absolutely love how this page turned out. I've talked in other videos how sometimes the picture of what's happening on the page doesn't match what's in your head. This matched what was in my head and actually was better than what was in my head. And this penguin, I have it going a little bit off the page, and that always builds in added interest. Just making sure that everything is fully adhered. So now I want to just do a little bit of shading around the belly of the penguin, the gel prints. And I'm using the float acrylic technique. And I will put a link to that video in the iCard. So if you look at the top, there's an eye, top right hand corner, there's an eye. If you click on that, those are recommended videos for techniques that I've used or something that somehow relates. There's also end pages at the very end of the video. Those are recommendations that I make that may be on the same theme, same technique, or other things that I think you might be interested in. That little bit of shading does make a big difference. It makes this gel print that I've glued on there look like it's actually part of the penguin now, as opposed to something that was just glued on, if that makes sense. Now I'm adding a little bit of Prussian blue, and I just have that in a container because I emptied out the tube. There's nothing special about it. And I want to shade that blue on the snowdrift. Black just didn't seem to work. I want it to look kind of crisp and cool and icy. So now I'm going around the outside of the page and I'm using a mixture of the Prussian blue and the black. And that's the advantage of using the float technique, because then you can do it whatever color you want. You're not limited to like a charcoal pencil that's white or a Stabilo all pencil that you can get in brown and black and blue and white, but you're still limited to the amount of colors that you can use. And the best thing of the floating acrylic technique is that it's permanent when dry. So if you were to varnish this or put wet medium on top of it once it's dry, it's going to still stay. It's not going to reactivate. I just love these penguins. They are so cute and adorable. I definitely can see more penguins in my future. Now I decide I'm going to get the fine line bottle out. This is white paint. It's been thinned down so that it comes out of the bottle but holds its shape, and that's just trial and error. And I'm just doing stitch work around. And I like that little bit of detailing that it gives. So don't be afraid if you're going to doing a project and you're thinking, oh, I'm going underwater, it's going to be an underwater theme, here's what I'm going to do. Don't be afraid, depending on how the page turns out, to change course and try something new. As I said before, I'll put a link to the fine line bottle and other products that I've used that I can recommend. Any product that I do list and link to are products that I use and I do believe in them. And I think that they would make a good addition to your art journaling mixed media stash. I'm really enjoying getting back to my art journal. I find it very freeing and lots of fun to play. The eyes just always give your characters personality. Then I decide I absolutely need a sentiment, and for the first time in a long time, I pull out these are Dilutions letter stamps, and I'm dipping it into Prussian blue paint. Although black would have worked because it reads with the penguins, and I'm spelling out the sentiment, chill. And I'm not even attempting to get it perfectly lined up or anything. I'm kind of tilting it this way and tilting it that way just to build in some interest. If you don't make a perfect stamp on here, because remember there's texture underneath, you can always come back with a paintbrush and paint it out more specifically. Thank you so much for joining me. There are some close-ups here. Check out the end cards for recommended videos on a similar theme or technique. I hope you enjoy this page as much as I do. It really makes me smile.